Those of you who have been following my channel know that I have been updating you continuously on the Kim Potter case. This is the case of Kim Potter that is out of Washington County, Minnesota. She was recently convicted in the shooting and death of a 26-year-old man. His name was Dante Wright. This is where Officer Porter pulled him over in a traffic stop. She was training some individual at the same time. The unfortunate thing here is that individual that was killed, Mr. Wright, resisted arrest. He simply would not comply. A warrant was shown to be active for this individual. Officer Porter tried to take him into custody. He resisted. He jumped in the car, was trying to take off, and the evidence shows clearly that Officer Potter accidentally shot him with her revolver instead of the shotgun. As a result, the individual died and ended up having a crash into another car, and I believe the individuals in the other car were also slightly injured, although I believe they've recovered since then. Well, as it turns out, there's been some developments in this case. A lot of this that I'm going to be telling you about comes from the Fox 9 online service. That is a local news outfit right there in Washington County. The news article states that former Kim Potter Prosecutor tried to essentially make a plea deal with the attorneys for Ms. Potter, and it was turned down. This is very shocking considering that this next month Ms. Potter faces 15 years in prison as a former police officer, which basically means she will probably be kept in mostly solitary confinement. Imagine being in solitary confinement for 15 years with very limited contact because she is a former police officer. That in itself is a subject we can talk about in another video at another time because frankly speaking, solitary confinement is essentially torture and is banned under the Geneva Conventions. At any rate, the Ms. Potter is scheduled for sentencing this next February. The shocking thing, the development you need to know about is that this prosecutor, and his name is, I hope I don't butcher his name, but it's Imran Ali. And you're not going to hear me say a lot of favorable things about prosecutors, but this guy is one of the good prosecutors. He's one of the prosecutors that all prosecutors should strive to be like. He is obviously a good man, an honest man, and he's trying to do what prosecutors should do, and that is seek out the fair administration of justice, to hold people accountable that need to be held accountable, and at the same time make sure that innocent people do not go to prison for something that they did not commit. Also, I believe it's a prosecutor's job to make sure that somebody is not overly prosecuted for something that they're not supposed to be prosecuted for. In other words, just because someone is a police officer or has a particular type of job and has fell out of favor with civil rights advocates or other individuals does not mean that she should spend more time in prison as a result of this. Clearly, this was a situation where, in my opinion, the jury got it wrong. On one hand, we do have to respect the verdict of the jury, but that does not mean it is correct. I hope, and it's just a small hope, that the judge will make things right when she is sentenced coming up this next month, but that remains to be seen. The takeaway here is that this prosecutor wanted, and I should say he reached out to the attorney for Ms. Potter. This attorney's name is Earl Gray. And according to Mr. Ali, when he reached out to Mr. Gray to let him know that, hey, I believe that this particular case we should basically not prosecute her for, as far as trying to get her on some kind of murder charge. Basically, this is something that can be handled on a probation type of situation. We don't have to pull out all the sword, so to speak, and go after her. We can simply find a way to mutually have her plead to a lesser charge, and she could receive probation as a result. According to Mr. Ali, Mr. Gray, the attorney for Ms. Potter, gave him no. It wasn't even, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you, or send me some information of what you propose and we'll talk about it. It was basically just no. No thank you, no way. Which is extremely unfortunate because as the situation has unfolded, it has become very political. This happened exactly at the same time that Darren Chauvin was being tried and the conviction for him was handled down, I believe, in the same courtroom that Ms. Potter was convicted of killing this Mr. Wright. So you have a lot of moving parts here. This gets very convoluted and very confusing. To simplify it real easy for you is that at the initial beginning, Ms. Potter had the opportunity to literally serve no prison time, but because her attorneys basically said no, we're not going to entertain any kind of plea deal, she has now become a convicted felon and will probably be sentenced up to 15 years in custody. It is really an absolute outrage when you think about it. And it's unfortunate that her attorney did not do a better job, in my opinion, of representing her. He should have jumped on this particular case before this particular DA had this case ripped away from him. Because it became political, the Attorney General, like Keith Ellison, basically removed this good prosecutor, Mr. Ali, from the case. The AG took over the case, and as soon as he took over the case, he upgraded the charges to the higher charges of involuntary manslaughter and first-degree murder of some sort. So it's extremely unfair. It's extremely unfortunate that all this happened. It shouldn't be the case where someone can just rip a case away and have this happen to this poor woman. To me, it's just an absolute outrage. I don't know. Tell me how you feel about it. Leave a comment in the comments below. I always like to read your comments and see what you have to say. I want you to always know, folks, that it's important that you understand these cases and understand what's going on with these cases. You need to learn to protect yourself, because in our country now, unfortunately, simply making a mistake can land you in a prison cell for a sizable chunk of your life. You could get up for work one day, go execute whatever job you have, whatever your responsibilities are, and God forbid something happens, a mistake happens, depending on the circumstances, boom, you can find yourself locked up, being tried, and unfortunately for Miss Potter, being convicted. She may be 60-some years old before she ever gets out of prison. She is currently in custody right now, and we'll learn her sentence this next month. We'll just have to pray and hope that something is done before she starts serving a massive amount of time in custody. Be sure to protect yourself, protect your family, and know the law, know the rules. On my channel, I like to say you need to watch my channel so you can learn to free your mind, and you need to learn the law so you can keep your free mind freed. Very, very important to understand the law and understand the laws and rules that we all live under. At any rate, I do appreciate you joining me today for this episode of the J.R. Dukes Show. I am J.R. Dukes, your host. Always remember to keep that free mind and never give up. I am J.R. Dukes.